Have you ever considered how that transaction, once scrutinized with a touch of derision by Western military observers, where China spent nearly $50 million to repurchase three rusty, obsolete Il-78 tanker aircraft from Ukraine, has quietly yet profoundly revolutionized the trajectory of the Chinese Air Force's blue skies. When the newly painted Y-20 tanker led a massive formation of refueling aircraft in a stunning pre-docking formation over Tiananmen Square on September 3, 2025, the answer to this question had already been etched into the extended flight paths stretching across the Pacific Ocean. The legendary tale of those three Il-78s, hailed as Minters, carries far greater weight than a simple second-hand equipment transaction. The story's origins were steeped in gritty reality. Around 2011, the Il-78s parked on the open tarmac at Melitopol Airport in Ukraine stood as symbols of the Soviet legacy, intertwined with post-Cold War struggles. For Ukraine, grappling with persistent economic downturn and strained military budgets since independence, maintaining this fleet of massive, sophisticated aerial tankers had become an unbearable burden. They were not only a financial liability, but also depreciating negative assets left behind by the decay of a once mighty military-industrial complex. Yet when the Chinese delegation looked beyond their dusty exteriors, they saw a key to unlocking the range limitations of the Chinese Air Force. At that time, although the Chinese Air Force had already deployed capable third-generation fighters, the H-6K tanker aircraft, modified from the H-6 bomber, suffered from limited fuel capacity and single aircraft refueling capability. This invisible bottleneck severely constrained the fighter squadron's ability to venture into the deep blue waters of the open seas. Therefore, this transaction was, at its core, a precise acquisition of time and knowledge. What China valued was the maximum fuel capacity of 105 tons. The UP-as-1M aerial refueling pod system capable of simultaneously servicing three fighter jets, and above all, the complete set of technical drawings and specifications, imbued with the ingenuity of Soviet engineers, included with the aircraft. After these three giant birds finally arrived in China following a circuitous journey, they did not immediately enter service. Instead, they entered a more rigorous classroom, China's aviation research institutes and factory workshops. Here, they were treated with almost anatomical precision. Every fuel line's material, diameter, layout, and connection method was meticulously documented. Every valve and pump controlling fuel flow switching underwent repeated testing for operating pressure, response characteristics, and durability. The most critical component, the refueling pod, was dissected down to its fundamental mechanical principles and fluid dynamics, its hose retraction mechanism, reel system, cone sleeve stabilizer, and docking logic with the receiving aircraft. Technical documentation from Ukraine served as an exhaustive decoding manual, significantly accelerating this reverse engineering process. Chinese engineers aimed not merely to learn operation and maintenance, but to thoroughly comprehend the underlying design rationale, and ultimately master how to improve upon it. This years-long, dedicated research systematically conquered 56 key technologies involved in large aerial refueling aircraft, particularly in core areas such as high-flow fuel transfer and control, dynamic stability during aerial coupling, and system reliability in complex electromagnetic environments. It achieved comprehensive knowledge accumulation from principle to practice. The assimilation of technology ultimately translates into combat capability enhancement. When Ilyushin IL-78 aircraft numbered 20,641, 20,642, and 20,643 were repainted and formally incorporated into the Chinese Air Force, they immediately became the busiest aerial instructors. Over the South China Sea and atop high plateaus, they formed formations with J-10, J-11, Su-30, and later J-16 fighters, repeatedly rehearsing high-risk maneuvers like threading a needle in the sky. The orange-yellow cone stabilizes in the airflow as fighter refueling probes precisely dock with it. Fuel surges through the long hose, a scene that evolved from unfamiliarity to mastery, from simple daytime conditions to complex night operations. It was through these repeated successful refueling sessions that the muscles of the PLOF's long-range offensive air power were forged. The presence of these Ilyushin Il-78 tankers not only provided pilots with invaluable hands-on experience but also enabled the Air Force command and logistics systems to establish, for the first time, the procedures and standards necessary to support large-scale Routine long-range aerial refueling operations. They serve as indispensable force multipliers and system-wide touchstones in the PLOF's transformation from a territorial defense force to one capable of both offense and defense. However, the ultimate value of any imported equipment lies in driving leaps in independent innovation. The mission of the IL-78 is precisely to serve as an invaluable source of inspiration. After thoroughly absorbing its design essence and deeply understanding its limitations, China's aviation industry embarked on its own chapter. Using the domestically developed Y-20 large transport aircraft as its foundation, the development of the domestically produced Y-20 large tanker aircraft became a natural progression. The Y-20 tanker is far from a mere replica of the IL-78. It represents a comprehensive leap forward, an optimized airframe based on digital design and advanced domestic composite materials, more powerful yet fuel-efficient domestically produced WS-20 engines, and highly integrated, intelligent domestic avionics and fuel management systems. The result is that the Y-20T achieves world-class standards in fuel capacity, refueling efficiency, range, avionics capabilities, and compatibility with all types of domestically produced fighter aircraft. Its mass production and service entry signify that the Chinese Air Force has completely ended its reliance on imported or modified large tankers, establishing an independent, reliable, and scalable strategic aerial refueling support system. Following the Y-20's official public debut in 2022 and its rapid attainment of combat readiness, the three distinguished IL-78s naturally entered a new phase of their operational life cycle. Around 2023, they were gradually stripped of their wing and tail refueling pods, transforming from specialized aerial refueling stations into large transport aircraft. They continue to serve within the national defense system, carrying out various cargo and equipment transport missions. This transition from frontline protagonists in training and combat readiness to supporting roles in the system's operations is precisely the proof that their value has been fully realized. They have passed on the most important torch. Today, when we gaze skyward and witness the Y-20 tanker forming a comprehensive long-range strike formation alongside the J-20 stealth fighter, J-16 multi-role fighter, and H-6N strategic bomber, we must not forget the era when the key to advancement was sought amidst the rusting steel hulks scattered across the grasslands. The return on that $47 million transaction defies monetary measurement. It bought back an entire compressed period of development time, a complete knowledge system, and most crucially, a passport for the Chinese Air Force to access any airspace of interest worldwide. From the silence of the Ukrainian steppes to the surging waves of China's distant seas, the flight paths of these three Ilyushin IL-78s ultimately converged into the mighty torrent of a nation's self-reliant aviation industry rising to prominence. Their legend lies in the fact that the end of their service marked precisely the beginning of a new, powerful era for the Chinese Air Force. Though their steel bodies may eventually age, the technological DNA and strategic vision they infused into the Air Force's bloodline will soar eternally in the higher, farther skies, accompanied by the more powerful roar of the Y-20 tanker and its successors.